welcome. Thank you for coming, agreeing to be interviewed. Marg, you've just given a paper at the conference, I think.
Yes. My paper was about professional doctorates and workplace learning, how they intersect, how they link.
And do they?
Yes, they do. My paper looked at 3 countries, the USA, England and Australia, with particular qualitative research for the English and Australian component. And we were looking at the development of professional doctorates, and they do have a very, very strong emphasis on the professional practice of the people doing the course, and their theses and their project work does tend to be very closely linked with who they are and what they do in their work.
I can see that would be, but how do you get the research element into those doctorates?
They're very much researching their own practice, and then they're contextualising that against the bigger picture. So say, for example, it's about leadership in their workplace, or their organisation becoming a learning organisation. There's a body of literature, methodologies and theoretical frameworks that are appropriate that they look at. So it's that intersection of research, theory and practice.
I suppose one question that raises for me is the methodologies of the research itself. If you're researching your own practice, that does raise methodology questions.
It raises ethical issues as well, and so it's quite tricky to get all of that in place and properly conducted. The observation I could make from the numbers of students I've seen going through so far doing their thesis or their project is actions research is very popular, a case study approach is very popular, a benchmarking comparative study. So they tend to be the main forms of research, but then the introduction of some quantitative methodology in the form of utilisation of statistical information, doing surveys and so on. So it's challenging, but there's some excellent books available that one can get to guide one.
I feel a plug coming on.
Well,
come on then, here we go.
Well, actually, what I want to plug is a wee bit different. I'm the lead editor for the Sage Handbook on Workplace Learning. And actually in that book there's only one chapter on higher education, and that's from Middlesex University, which does have a lead professional doctorate in workplace learning. But we're hoping that it'll become a definitive reference point for people who are doing that kind of research. And because it's a Sage Handbook, it's covering many continents and different countries and different workplaces.
I suppose the second question, which I'm sort of interested in, is in the past, many research students were grant funded or had some stipend to do their work. Now, if we're talking about people doing their doctorate alongside a professional full-time job, just where do they find the time?
Time poor is a problem of our whole society, and that's been coming up again and again in so many of the presentations in the VetNet theme here. They're very busy professional people. They're often mid-career professionals. They study part-time, they're working full-time, they're often in managerial roles. They have to be phenomenally disciplined. And you mentioned about the stipend and the scholarships. In Australia, the trend with professional doctorates is they're full fee paying, so they have to find the money as well, and so that's an even greater expense, not just time, but the money. In England and in America, it's far more common for the organisation to identify that they would like to have some work undertaken, and they'll contribute towards the student, and they might give them time, and they'll get, which is, I think, worth more than the money, and they may even pay some of their fees, if not all. And so it is a real challenge. You have to really be passionate and want to do this work to further your own intellectual endeavour and lifelong learning to undertake it.
Or is there some room for some policy innovation now? If we're saying this work-based learning route is a route to research, then maybe our funding bodies and our various bodies which run our university systems could be looking at developing this.
I think they could be. In Australia, there's been very much that trend towards learning outcomes, as a focus towards completion, and a focus on how many people have graduated in the statistical information that's collected rather than how many have actually started. I mean, that's collected too, but the emphasis has shifted to completions. In Australia, there is a slight opportunity for people to get some research funding at the thesis stage, and that would pay for their fees, and that helps enormously, and they can be part-time on that. But you're right, it does need to be extended. And if it's going to be contributing to our understanding and our improvement of our work practices, one would hope that that would be recognised as being important. But education always seems to be the bridesmaid, not the bride in policy.
Well, that was going to be my last question to you, really. This conference is about research-based policy, but somebody just suggested to me, actually, we have policy-based research at the moment. What's your observation on that?
Look, I agree with that, and I've been interested in policy research for years, and that's what my own PhD was about, in an even more esoteric field, affirmative action for women in education. Where are they? But no, I think that we're like a dog chasing its tail. We do our research, we do our thinking, we have debates and discussions here, and then when you look at the development of policy, where is education? It's just not represented. And Stephen Ball's spoken about this and written about it extensively, and many others. It's a real challenge, and we don't have any easy answers now, and we're like knocking on the door trying to get in, and the policymakers don't really want to hear us or know about us. And so many innovations and changes that occur in education at all levels exclude research, and they exclude educators, and it's actually very depressing.
How can we change it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I just think we have to keep on having conferences like this and be persistent, but I think that we have to become far more politically active, and that get onto the policy making committees. And it's so hard to try and get your voice heard, but I think we do have to be far more proactive rather than sitting back and doing the research on the policy and the implications and what's happening, trying to find ways of publicising what we find. I don't know. It's sort of like a call for a fifth column movement here, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.